So film is like really considered to be just like another category.
I feel like that's a whole
it's
other
a whole
ball game.
Yeah. It's
That's
a
why
whole other world.
when people say to me like, "Why don't you work in film?" I'm like, "Oh."
It's really difficult because so the thing is like when you do very close up shots, you cannot see the texture of the makeup. You cannot. So it's like basically you're putting down makeup, pigment. You're putting down pigment while trying not to actually put down like texture, like actual product.
Yeah.
It's a really weird way of doing makeup. And the thing that people tend to forget when doing film is like just because you're really like good, for example film, I would struggle a lot with that as well. It's like that thing where you're like, oh yeah, you're really good at glam makeup, you should do film. But people don't do glam makeup that much when they do film, because if your character, so yeah, as we were saying, like if your character is a 22-year-old going out to a party with her friends, so she's going out to a nightclub with her friends, okay, that's like your setting for the movie. The average 22-year-old, how would they do their makeup in that setting?
So let's say this is like
Would
90s London, right?
Or even like early 2000s, like how would they do their makeup?
It would be different now.
It'd be a bit different now, but it really depends on your character. Like if she's like a really chill character, would she really do like a full bake? No, she wouldn't. She would put like a little bit of BB cream and probably a black eyeliner, and she would try to draw like smoke out the upper lash line or something. So when you do the makeup on that person, you're actually gonna do messier makeup than you would originally do, because that's the way your character would do the makeup. So like movie makeup is just a complete other world, because you're not doing makeup as in like, oh, this is how I know how to do makeup, I'm good at makeup, I'm gonna do it that way. No, you have to take into account the whole story. Being like, okay, is she tired? Yes. Am I going to cover up the under eye circles then?
No.
If so, how am I gonna do it so that it still looks as if she's tired? It's a very calculating. I'm just wiping off just a few. I'm gonna get some more. I only ate one. It was just like,
I thought you had a view.
oh.
Need some more. It's got to fit the context of the narrative,
Oh,
yeah. Which is why like Euphoria is a interesting one.
Yeah. So I really love them. I haven't watched that series, but I've seen like a lot of pictures from it. And I love the makeup from it because it's like really, really different. It's very editorial, very avant-garde. And I think that's cool. People are finally realizing that this is a thing. The thing is, I think it's unrealistic. I mean, it's part of the series, so it's like part of the plot, so it's not like unrealistic to the plot. Well, when you look at high schoolers nowadays, like who's gonna spend the time gluing on 20 rhinestones per eye? No one has the time for that in the morning. Like, even I would wake up and try to like straighten my hair, and that would take enough time as it is. I wasn't gonna like glue on rhinestones.
Yeah.
Like, it takes too much time.
So it's interesting that they've gone full pelt with artistic
Yeah.
avant-garde makeup when
I think it's a good idea, because it's just like it makes people more aware of like different styles of makeup, but and maybe it's like sort of set in a different like setting where that kind of makeup makes sense, but like for regular day-to-day high school, it makes no sense at all.
which is also interesting because everybody's picked up on it.
Yeah.
Because everybody's noticed it.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. Because it's so unrealistic that you're like, oh
That's
wow,
cool.
that makeup is like, oh geez, like on a 15-year-old, like, oh, and everybody's talking about it. So to me, it's the same with graphic design, which is good graphic design and typography is invisible. Bad graphic design and typography is everywhere. And I think I think this goes the same.
Yeah, and it might be, like, honestly, I think they're smart enough to do it, like, they're smart enough to do it in a way that's, like, it's not a mistake. I think they wanted people to notice that makeup. They wanted people to be like, wait, what? What is that? Like that.
They were like, let's go ham on this high school kind of,
Exactly. It also needs to be good coverage because of the lights, right? So that really depends. TV and film are two completely. Oh my god, look at that. I'm gonna like wipe off my hands afterwards. I'm not touching your face with that. TV and film are two completely different categories. So, TV, yes, you have like insane amount of light on someone, and I used to, oh my god, the day we did the TV class in school, it completely ruined TV for me, because I would look at the news anchor and I'd be like, they didn't match your face to your arms.
Oh no.
The makeup, I can tell that the makeup artist isn't here today, and someone else filled in because you because you look really tired today. TV needs a lot more coverage.
But
yeah.
versus film.
Versus film, because so you're really far away for TV, and there's a lot more lights than there would be in film, and they wash you out a lot. So when you put foundation on someone for TV, you're actually gonna shade match them, but like darker than they actually are. And so it's really funny, which is why I have fun watching TV now, because if they do that, which they often do, they need to put like, if the neck is shown, they need to match that as well. Same thing with hands. If it's someone doing the weather, they need to shade match their hands. Sometimes they forget, and so their hands are like really pale, and suddenly their face looks really orange in comparison.
Secrets out.
There's 3 skin tones. Exactly, Abu. So that's what I have fun looking at now. Being like, have they forgotten to match the rest of the skin? Because normally, everything that shows on camera, you're supposed to put foundation on it.
Like arms, everything.
Yeah. If it shows on camera, you're supposed to put foundation on it. And so the lighting in TV does wash out people quite a lot. Whereas the lighting in film, not so much. You do have to shade match the person exactly for film. And it doesn't have to be... So, as I said, like, at the beginning of the stream, I was talking about color correcting the products that Makeup Forever has, that it's like, it color corrects, but it doesn't put down any product. It just looks like moisturizer. That is the type of thing you would use for film. Because, yes, you want there to be coverage, as in, like, you want it to be corrected, but you don't want it to be visible. Like, the product needs to be invisible. That would be very awkward. And it happens, Steven. It happens, Steven. and it's very funny to watch.
That's super interesting. Like, the amount that goes into it.
Yeah. And, like, there's a lot of research, like I told you about the other one. So this is more like film, like, special effects. But there's a lot of research that goes into the makeup. There was a woman that did a presentation that taught us special effects. I'm gonna go wash my hands afterwards. It annoys me, I don't like it. She taught us special effects, and I already told you this, but it was a film that was going to be, it was a story, and it was going to be filmed in the Amazonian forest in South America, and the main character was going to have an injury, and it was going to become infected, okay? So, like, for me, if you were to tell me that, I'd be like, yeah, I sort of know what an infection looks like, I want to make it look like that, but no. What she did, and what good makeup artists do when they're working in film, is she actually went to hospitals, to clinics, to like specialized libraries where they would show her pictures of what does an infection look like if it's happening in a very, very, very humid weather that you can find in the Amazonian forest, because the type of infection that you would get there wouldn't be the type of infection you would get here. So she would look at actual pictures of real infections and be like, this is what I need to replicate. It's the same thing with historical makeup. Same thing with, like, I don't know, if you're doing something like in the 1980s or something, you're gonna do makeup that looks like the 1980s. You're not gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna do makeup like today. No.
Just gonna complete glam.
I'm just gonna quickly go wash my hands.
I think that's something that's quite interesting.
I'm gonna take a Cheeto before I go.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm not gonna be able to.
Nicking all my cheeks. It's fine, go for it. I think that's something that's super interesting. Oh, yeah, thank you so much. I think that's something that's super interesting, and a lot of people don't necessarily realise is how much work goes into it. For instance, when people think of special effects, they naturally think of things like Doctor Who. But for instance, like as you said with continuity boot, for things like when you see a character, like so much has to be involved. When you see a character who continuously throughout a film has a bloodshot eye, But the mark is, for instance, down here. You can use things like eye blood, etc., but that's more of like an instant product, and it's going to go away within 10 seconds. You can't continuously apply that. It's going to look different in every shot. So what then has to happen is, because it's on the white of the eye, you then have to create a sclera. The sclera is then custom built to that actor or actress's eye, and it's hand painted, and it's rounded as well. So they take into context how, when you wear contact lenses, what they do is they spin throughout your eye as you're blinking. The whole time they're always spinning, and it's really obvious when you're wearing cat eye lenses. But as we've said, for like the continuity thing, what you would have to do is have the sclera. So my scleras you've seen are the black ones which cover the whole eye. You'd have a sclera which you would insert, and it would be weighted so it wouldn't move because it's measured to your eye, and that bloodshot will stay. So whenever you see that and that mark is staying on the actor or actress's eye the whole time, it's a sclera lens, and that's how it's been put in, because you need to take into consideration that if that character is bloodshot for half the movie after they've been punched in the face, it can't move all the time, so it has to be kept within. So there's small things like this that have to be altered and changed, and this is why TV and film makeup can be so hard.
But I feel like, and you realize at that point, like, the budget that goes into it as well, because that's incredibly expensive.
A custom lens, I'm not sure about a custom sclera lens, is about £550.
Oh wow.
Because I was speaking to the guys who do it for like the Marvel universe. I was speaking to them. They also, for you know the film Isle of Dogs.
I haven't seen it,
but
I've no.
Every single eye on those dogs was hand painted, and it was by this company. It's why I came up to them. I was like, "Why have you got eyeballs everywhere?" They were like, "We hand painted every eye for Isle of Dogs, and they were all hand painted to be slightly different, because one of the most amazing things about when you create a character is their eyes, because it's naturally like the first thing you kind of look at. You look straight at the eye. So because they're all personalized for every dog, and they were all hand painted, every single one of them. And there's small things like this which go into film and TV that I think a lot of people don't. You don't necessarily see it. I brought my dad to IMATS, and he came out and was like,
IMATS is fantastic for learning the effort that goes into filmmaking. Like
they tend to have, I don't know what they had when you were there, but when I was
2015.
I'm not sure.
It was the year the team that did the makeup on the I don't know the name in English. The title of the movie. It's the one with Leonardo DiCaprio with the bear.
Oh, guys, what's the
Revenant?
one with? Yeah, the Revenant.
Oh, it's the same one. Okay.
Yeah.
Revenant, and they showed like it was like very interesting and both very disgusting. Like the prosthetics, he was he was shirtless, but it wasn't actually him. It was completely prosthetics. Like they had to redo his whole chest.
That's mad to me, that how far they'll have to go for it.
And for every single one that they do, they'd have an additional 5 just in case. And I'd be like, 5 just in case. That's like it's like plan B, plan C, plan D.
Everything's gone wrong. That's when you have a bad day, when you're on D.
Like, how much do things need to go wrong for you to be like, we're on our last one, guys? It's like we can't mess up this time. And
That's really interesting.
And they would do it like for him it was like a lot of SFX, like a lot of like he was bleeding, and they made it so that in one of the scenes, one of the guys was actually like sewing. I haven't seen that movie because I'm really bad with gory stuff, which is weird. But and he's sewing up like his wounds. He's actually sewing up like the prosthetic. They've made it so that he can actually like sew it up. And then they had for like that same chest, they had 3 different versions, because it's like when he gets hurt, when he's sewn up, when it gets infected. And so every single time, like, you imagine the number of prosthetics that they were making just
and that's the final product when they figured it out.
Yeah.
The trials to get it done is unbelievable. I'm still not able to grasp how they could put together all the things in Game of Thrones. It's ridiculous. I watched the making of stuff. It's a lot. It's the stuff that goes into it is a lot.
I really appreciate Game of Thrones for what they've done, like those videos behind the scenes, because as I said before, like, this is why we wear black when we're makeup artists. You're in the shadows, you're not supposed to be seen, and people don't usually know the amount of work that you put into, like, they'll just see the end product and be like, cool. They won't know. They won't know the work that goes into it. And I feel like Game of Thrones definitely has been, like, pushing people who are usually in the shadows, like, out into the spotlight. And I'm not just talking about makeup artists, like the guy who, like, there's one guy in Game of Thrones that does all the explosion work.
Oh.
And in the making of videos, he'll be, like, explaining what he does, and you'll be like, this is so much work. Oh my god.
An
it's
explosion
like,
expert.
And yeah, he's like an explosion expert. He's just, I mean, like, the guy is, like, must be so happy he's working with dynamite all day. But, like, yeah, there's that guy. And then there's, like, the guys that are handle, like, when someone's on fire. Like, the amount of work that goes behind that. You usually only get one shot for that. But so much preparation goes around just that one shot that you, like, when you see the episodes, I know you haven't watched Game of Thrones, but you see it for, like, 3 seconds. 3 seconds. And you look at how long they spent on it. Like, they will spend, like, a whole morning just for those 3 seconds.
But
It's
also,
incredible.
the kind of things that you see in, for instance, Game of Thrones, and the one that I was thinking of as well was, like, The Grinch, for instance.
Grinch is good.
They're very successful because it's convincing. Whereas the more, I feel like the films that always get pushed down, there hasn't been as much budget and they're not as successful because it's not convincing. Because what you can't do is look at something, and it's different, I think, when you stand in your shoes especially. I feel like I self-teach a lot, but for me, when I watch something, I'm like, it's a prosthetic. Like, I know how it's roughly been done, but because I'm standing in those shoes, whereas somebody else, to them, it has to look real, and that's the trickiest part, and that's what makes something either successful or unsuccessful. That you couldn't look at it and be like, I mean, it's just a prosthetic. Like, the average viewer can't see. That can't happen. It has to look convincing.
Oh, the audio has some delay, apparently.
Has some delay? Is it good for you? Oh, could you try and do a quick refresh? If that's okay. Because it seems alright on our side.
I remember one of the Star Wars films has a 60-minute run-through of a 1-minute scene. Star Wars, so we're not talking about, like, visual special effects, we're talking about, what's the other kind? It's called practical special effects. Yeah, practical special effects. Star Wars film are, like, one of the best examples of just really insanely good. Like, even, okay, I may be, like, a bit of a purist like that, but even, like, the first 3 movies that nowadays you look at it and you'll be like, that kind of sucks. Some of the stuff, when you look at how they did it, you're just like, wow, that's with the amount at that time, it was revolutionary. And if you like, I have a magazine that takes you throughout, like, each movie and tells you exactly how they did, like, every scene. And with like with pictures and everything, and every single time I look at it, I'm just like, that's insane. That's insane that they would go through that. Like, do all that just for, like, something that we don't even appreciate when we watch the movie. Like, we don't even.
And you come out like, I didn't like it. Every time you do that, a special effects artist cries. Yeah, it's really, really impressive. I think a lot of things go into film that you don't necessarily see. Like, when I was at IMATS, the makeup artist who does all the monsters in Doctor Who was there, and it was really interesting. That was really interesting. You saw, I can't remember the tentacle people called. I can't remember what they're called. The ones that you can't see, or you always forget about or something. And to see that kind of stuff happening, it's completely mind-blowing. And then you'd also see somebody created somebody to look like Mrs. Doubtfire, and they specifically started them off from a male and took them to the Mrs. Doubtfire, but it looked exactly like the one from the film. And to see all the prosthetic work go on, you start, because you're there the whole day usually, like, potting about, and you can watch how the demo happens. It's very, very interesting, and you also realise, like, that's them just doing a demo. But if it was film, for instance, like, the actor doesn't, like, sit in that for 6 weeks, right? Every day that has to happen. So, for instance, The Grinch, it was grueling for Jim Carrey because that was like 8 hours of makeup or something every day.
Oh, that's like Nebula.
Yeah.
Or Mystique also. It was 8 hours.
Oh, it was Mystique.
8 hours.
Yeah.
Like, the first, I think they fixed it, but originally she had to be painted on, like, the whole body, because it's like whole body is blue.
Yeah.
With, like, each individual, like, little scale, and apparently it was like 8 hours of work. they go through a lot. Like,
Yeah.
acting is like, I think a lot of people look at acting as in like, oh, this is so great, looks amazing. It's not that easy, and it's
Yeah.
very boring sometimes too, because you spend most of your day just waiting, and then suddenly someone goes like action, and suddenly you just like
Finally.
need to go into
Cut.
character like that. It doesn't pay very well. I saw someone talking about like the pay. Makeup artistry, no, doesn't pay very well. It can if you get to a certain point, like Vinyl. Vinyl is a very famous film makeup artist, but it's really difficult to get to that point. It's a very saturated environment with a lot of people
Yeah.
wanting to get to the top and not very many spots.
I think there's also like a trust thing where they know their artist and they're gonna go for that artist, the same artist all the time.
Yeah, that's why networking
Yeah.
is just like so important.
Bam. The only reason why is because we had the we were on the front page today. That's why the viewership's so high. Seems like some people wanted to stay, which is pretty nice. Yeah. Are they just called The Silence? I thought they were called something else. The Dark Crystal movie. I haven't seen that one.
I haven't seen that either. She's a judge in Face Off. Yeah, she is.